Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the second section of this episode. This is what did I learn this week, and here is what actually happened this week. And I'll start off with what did I learn this week. I learned a couple things about two quarterbacks. I would like to start off with Michael Pinnix Jr. He went out there against Michigan State, a solid defense, went 24 for 40, had a good game. I think it was 2 or 3 touchdowns. I have to go back and look again, but went out there and just balled, honestly. Like 24 for 40 isn't the number that you would quite like to see, just a little bit over 40%, right near that 60% line. But at the same time, if you watch that game, like we said, I said we, but like I said, Michigan State has a good defense. Like they have a solid defense. That was nothing to just go out there and think that you can just run through easily. And Michael Pinnix Jr. did a good job of handling that. 4 touchdowns, 397 yards, so just under 400, and 24 for 40. Did a great job of keeping that game really out of touch for Michigan State. Washington got out to a huge lead to start. Michigan State got a couple scores in between then, but just never really got truly into being able to challenge Washington to go ahead and stuff like that. So game ended at an 11-point difference, which I think was the smallest difference in that game, other than, the first few scores that Washington got. So, shout out to Michael Penix Jr. He went out there and showed that he could potentially be a top quarterback draft prospect in this year and the coming year's draft. So, and he is a junior, if I'm correct. Yeah, he is a junior. So he can't come out in the draft this year, and he looks like he could possibly be one of those top pick guys. So far this season, already 1,079 yards in 3 games and in 10 touchdowns to 1 pick. Like, those are numbers that are hard to just like look at and be like, oh, it's fake. Like, if you go watch him, he's the real deal. Like, he's reading defenses, he's anticipating throws, he throws his receivers open, putting guys in the right place and stuff like that, making it into spots that you don't normally see college quarterbacks be able to do. So I have to give a shout out to him, being able to get that done over there against Michigan State. And then the other thing I learned was Anthony Richardson. Man, I wanted Anthony Richardson to be real so bad, but he's just not. Anthony Richardson went out there, 112 yards, 2 picks. Did not look good against South Florida. He's yet to throw a touchdown so far this season as a quarterback. And like, I hate to say this, but Emory Jones Part 2. And that's the Hawk because they talk so much. Florida Gators fans, the team, the coaches, like, hyped up Anthony Richardson so much to be just like this great quarterback and a guy who's really going to push to make a challenge and all this other stuff. And even last year when he was sitting behind Emory Jones, people were talking about, why isn't Anthony Richardson getting a chance? Because like in the flashes that we all saw, he looked to be solid. He looked like he could potentially be better than what Emory Jones was. And people were confused why he wasn't starting over Emory Jones. And now we're figuring out why. Like, I can't just, it's hard for me to just sit here and say like Anthony Richardson is just worse than Emory Jones right now. But like, they're about equal. Like, it made sense that he didn't take the job from Emory Jones. Like, I don't think anything would have changed last year based off of what I've seen so far this season. Went out against Utah. Florida played a good defense, and he made some highlight plays and stuff like that. But overall, it just, like, when you watch him, like, he struggles with accuracy. He struggles with reading defenses and going through his progression. So it's going to be a minute. And I think he's only a sophomore, so he still has time no, he's actually a junior, but he still has time. I think probably at least 2 years of eligibility left to see if he can get better. But as of right now, he's not that guy. Like, you're not that guy, pal. But that's tough for Florida because I really wanted them to be real just for the sake of Georgia having more competition in the East. But I'm going to go into here's what happened this past week. This past week is there's no other better way to put it. It is a boring version of Cupcake Week. I explained what Cupcake Week was last week whenever all these group of 5 schools get paid millions of dollars to go up and see if they have the chance to upset someone in a Power Five conference. And we saw 3 upsets last week, which is what made it more exciting and more, I don't know, just intense last week to be like, whoa, like what is going on in college football? Like there's a lot of upsets. Notre Dame, A&M go down. Nebraska, I don't know if that really meant anything to anyone, but like it's just crazy to see like those teams going down. And now we saw Notre Dame this week too. So, I mean, I don't know what they're doing right now. I mean, new coach, new system, all this other stuff. We'll get in. Well, we won't get into that, but that's a story for another day. But I do think that this week was just a lot more boring. Like it just really wasn't any upsets other than Washington, and that was one that was a little bit predictable. If you looked at those two teams and just broke down what exactly they were, Michigan State is a defensive team that has a quarterback that can manage the game really well. He can put up some nice numbers, but he's not going to go out and win you a game in Thorne. And Washington has the same thing, but a quarterback that can win you a game. And I just talked about it. Like he went out there and looked great, and he won them the game. Like quite simple. And A&M, they upset Miami. I mean, A&M was supposed to be better than Miami anyway. I think they just had a weird week against App State that they shouldn't have lost that. I don't think they're as big and bad as they tried to make themselves seem out to be in the offseason, but at the same time, I still think that they are a team that is a serious option in terms of teams that can challenge the top teams in the SEC, like teams that can challenge Alabama and Georgia is basically what I'm saying. A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, Florida, not Florida anymore, but Tennessee, Kentucky, possibly Vanderbilt. I don't know what's going on, but Vanderbilt has been looking solid. So I think that I like A&M is still one of those teams. You know what I'm saying? So I, that's an upset. But I mean, it was kind of a surprise that Miami was able to just jump up this far and kind of make the start they did off rip with a new coach and everything anyway. So still hoping that they can challenge Clemson. Please, 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 fingers crossed, them in Wake Forest. And we already talked about Florida sliding by barely. And then the last one was Oregon over BYU. Oregon went out and proved that we're not just scrubs. Georgia's just amazing. Like, Georgia went out there and made them look worse than what they actually were. BYU, I think, went into that game ranked like 12. Like, they were ranked in the between 10 and 20. And then Oregon was like 22, 23. Like, they were back far near the end. And Oregon went in there and really took care of business. Bo Nix able to get it done. We all know Bo Nix at times can show good things, but overall, he's just not the quarterback that is going to win you a championship. Oregon was right at 25, just barely on the line, but they went out there 41-20, really put it down onto BYU. It wasn't close except for like the first quarter. It was 10-7. You get to halftime 24-7, and it just kind of ran on from then. And BYU was able to put up some late touchdowns at the end of that game. Bo Nix threw a pick. So what's new? But yeah, I think that Oregon is really has a chance to be still a top team in the Pac-12, along with USC, along with BYU, along with Washington. So I think that they can still challenge. They're not going to win that conference, and they're not going to be a championship contender. But it was just, I guess, eye-opening to see that Oregon's not just bad. Georgia is really just that good to make them look that bad. So, yeah, that was really crazy to see. And I would say that's what I learned this week in kind of a short overview of what happened. And I guess if this is indicative of what the ranking show is going to be, the ranking show, there's not much that is going to change within my rankings. If you remember them from last week, is more just like a reordering of some of the teams. I think you might be surprised at the bottom of my rankings of some of the teams that I said got switched around or who got put in there. So, yeah. And we'll cut here, and I'll be back with the rest of my rankings tomorrow. So, different shirt, new light. you'll see the difference. Once again, like I said, we're going to put them all together, but I do also want to drop these in sections so that people can kind of just get short bursts of stuff like that. And I still am working on the TikTok account. I made the TikTok account. I just need to actually change the name now and then edit my videos in a way so that I can put it out onto that platform. So stay tuned. I'll see you tomorrow.